Hey everybody, just want to make a quick video to deal with a question that I'm getting a lot of times in class. More and more often I'm getting students asking me, do I want to carry with a red dot? Do I want to carry with sights? Everybody's seeing all the hubbub and all the debate online. And so a lot of people are having a tough time deciding on what they want to do for their own personal use. So I thought I'd take a couple of minutes and take a different angle and drop a little science on you and give you some things to think about whenever you're trying to decide whether you want to carry with a red dot or whether you want to go old school with iron sights. So stick around. All right, guys. So I'm not going to get into in this video a big debate about batteries, failure points, those kinds of things, glass breakage, dependability, which model's better. That's not what I'm wanting to focus on here. Today I'm wanting to talk about kind of maybe a slightly different angle that you may or may not have thought about when you're just trying to decide whether to do a red dot optic or whether to do standard iron sights in your carry. And that's the physiology of how your body is actually dealing with and processing the information of that sight picture and sight alignment as you're pulling it into focus. So I'm going to drop a little pseudoscience on you here, and for those of you who disagree with me and think I'm crazy, please comment below and tell me, hey, I've got a PhD in eye science, and I'm going to correct you here. But general idea is at every given moment in time, we've all heard of your peripheral vision, and we all know that that's what's out here on either side at the limits of your vision out here on the corners. At any given moment in time, your eye is actually processing information in like snapshots. It's taking snapshots and it's processing and pulling all that together to form a motion picture. Still frames, frames per second, however you want to do it. Actually probably more like frames per nanosecond in the case of the human eye, because it's pretty amazing. And so where I'm going with that is, besides your peripheral vision out here on the side, you have what's considered your foveal vision dead center out front. Okay, so if you envision roughly the size of a quarter out at about arm's length, at any given moment in time, that is where you have 100% perfect visual acuity based on your particular body's setup. Everything else out around it is going to be in grades or shades of gray, so to speak, as it gets further out towards your peripheral vision on either side. So your focus, your main key focus, is going to be right there. Anything out in through here and on out starts getting into where your body's going to process it more of an after image or just secondary or slightly less focused, that kind of thing. And you're going to process it and deal with it accordingly. So your brain is doing all this in the background instantaneously with no thought from you, and it's bringing that information from your subconscious or processing mind into your conscious mind for you to deal with and to do something with. That's why you'll notice that your peripheral vision, if you catch motion over here, you immediately look in that direction because your brain caught motion, and that old brain, that old mammalian brain where we were hunted and we weren't at the top of the food chain, kicks in and says, oh, what's that? So where I'm going with all this is not to give you a Bill Nye the Science Guy lecture, but it's to give you the concept of the fact that whether you're thinking about it or not, your eye is processing information and your brain is processing that information constantly. So in the case of an iron sight, as you're coming up and punching out and getting into position, before I even get up into my line of sight or key into my foveal vision, because again, like we've talked about in all of our classes, you should always be scanning and looking around. You should be looking out there. You should never be, for an attack and for a threat. But once you decide to make that shot, you're going to live on this front sight. So you're going to focus on a red dot or a front sight as it punches out and comes up onto target for that attack. Or attacker. So your foveal vision is going to be on that front sight or that red dot at all times. You're never going to move it. Your foveal vision will stay on that dot at all times, no matter where the target is. Okay? So as you're coming up to get on target and to punch out, your peripheral vision has already picked up this sight picture so that you can get your sight alignment once you hit your foveal vision, or your spot of where the two join, peripheral and foveal. So where I'm going with that is, so with traditional iron sights, your body, with or without your conscious knowledge, is already processing as you're coming up where that needs to stop, where it needs to land, where my foveal vision point is, where those two are going to line up, and where everything's going to make that perfect matchup out here in the end. So with regards to iron sights, your body is going to process that much quicker natively, particularly for shooters who started out with iron sights and have been shooting with them for much, much longer periods of time. Now, with a dot, as you all know, your eye and peripheral vision may or may not pick up that dot before you get up into your foveal vision or line of sight. And that's because of the angle. As we all know, the red dot or green dot in this case doesn't appear until it gets right into your line of sight and right up to where it's in the center of the glass area. So in a lot of cases, unless you're bringing the gun up at an incorrect angle so that your peripheral vision can catch that dot and then pull it up into your foveal vision, which is obviously not the correct way to be punching out, then you may not pick it up until it gets all the way out here into your foveal. And then that's where a lot of people will juggle or bumble or move left, right, up, down to get it to where it focuses into that foveal vision, and you've got that dot, you're focused on it. So that's something to consider when you're thinking about iron sights versus a red dot sight. So I guess what you're going to think is, well, in that case, you're telling me I should go with iron sights. I should not use a red dot. Well, that's not true. So what I'm telling you, though, is that you need to consider and understand the concept that that's what's happening, and that this is one more element that you need to factor into your training. So it goes back to train. You've got to train. And if I'm training that I'm always pulling up that exact same presentation every single time, whether it's from draw, from sul, from whatever position I'm coming from, if I'm training every single time to put that red dot into that foveal spot, that sweet spot, then it's going to be roughly the same effect without the advantage of having that peripheral vision guide up into the foveal vision. So it's going to boil down to, again, if you decide to carry with an optic as opposed to just an iron sight, you're going to have to train. You're going to have to condition your body to have that muscle memory, so to speak, of getting everything out there every single time, exact same spot, perfect draw, perfect stroke, perfect motions to get that dot to fall into your foveal vision and that sweet spot every single time. Now, again, I'm not trying to encourage you whether or not to use a dot. I'm not trying to say which one's better or which one's worse. I'm just trying to give you a little more information whenever you're making a decision for yourself on what's right for you and for your carry style. Do I go with just iron sights? Do I go with the dot? What do I do? Science, bro. Science. So thanks for stopping by Mining Ridge Armory and listening to our rambling today and about a little pseudoscience with regards to how your eyes process the dot. Until we see you out on the range, you keep living your dream.